So hello and welcome to domytriesthis. I hope you brought your cuppa. Today's coffee mug is a Valentine's mug that came from my husband. It says love XOXO, or actually more correctly, X heart, be mine, kiss, and all those other little Valentine phrases. Today's tea is the Stash Chocolate Orange. I've been having a bit of a morning, and the chocolate orange is actually one of my comfort teas. So, we all know I like this one, but we're going to go ahead and give it a taste. Oh. The chocolate starts off very strong in the beginning of this tea, but by the end of the tea, that orange flavor will be stronger. It's still a very good tea, even when the chocolate's really strong. It's kind of a dark, almost bitter chocolate, but it's a good tea. Really nice. This coffee mug is one of very few actual Valentine's mugs I have. So hopefully I can get us through to the 14th. Anyway, today I am going through another foundation testing bit of stuff. I have 7, but I believe there's 8 on my list. I have one that I do not have the bottle for anymore. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the Me Matte Poreless. This is way looser in consistency than I really like. It's a very loose foundation. It's very watery to me. As you can kind of see it, it's just really kind of, there's not really much thickness to it at all. I prefer much thicker foundations when I'm working with them. It mixed well with my TruBlend, however, and with my Vichy. If you don't know, I use the Vichy Mineral 89 in my foundation so that my foundations do more than just sit on my face. I don't like to have, if at all possible, I like to have anything that's going to be of that kind of consistency sitting on my face, doing more than just sitting on my face. The combo with the Vichy and the CoverGirl gave me a really, really nice finish without emphasizing my texture. It did look a touch foundation-y when it dried down, but not badly so. Set nicely with powder. Did feel it both a little bit to the touch and on my face, and I don't like to actually feel my foundation sitting on my face. To the touch, I can kind of get, I don't touch my face that much during the day, but to feel it actually weighing on my face is something I don't particularly like. So while I will keep this and while I am likely to continue to use it in the future, it's not a foundation that will become my favorite. I'll probably just try to use it up and then not repurchase it. Something that goes along with that is the Me Matte Poreless powder. I have the pressed powder. This can be used as either a setting powder or as a very, very, very sheer coverage foundation. I actually prefer it as a setting powder. I do need a bit more coverage. I do have redness in this area and around my nose, and I tend to get visitors on my forehead. And yeah, so I have some discoloration that this is not strong enough to even out or to cover. So I much prefer this as a finishing powder or a setting powder. I don't think it keeps the shine off completely. I would have to continue to use it to, say in the summer, I would have to continue to blot down, but that's just because my T-zone, I can talk, honestly, I can. My T-zone gets very oily, especially in the summer. However, that said, it is a nice fine powder, and it works very well on most of the foundations that I have tried and liked. I do use it with a brush, and I think I need a bit of a touch-up. So this is my big Morphe E41. It is the only brush I have from Morphe. It is the only brush I want from Morphe. Yeah, see, it reduces the shine pretty much on contact, but it doesn't last. But that said, it doesn't turn my foundation cakey. I don't get the little, I think I've mentioned before, I have kind of larger pores on my nose, and I tend to get, with certain powders, they collect in there, and I will get polka dots on my nose, essentially from the powder. This does not do that. It's a fine enough sift that it doesn't do that. So yeah, I actually really enjoy using this one as a setting powder. It is in my, it was in my Shop My Stash, so this is one of the products I'm using through February. I am really enjoying it, and yeah, so if you're looking for, really, like I said, the coverage is really sheer, so unless you have skin with a few imperfections and you can live with those imperfections showing up, I would not use this as a powder foundation. I do have powder foundations I prefer over it as a powder foundation, but if you want to use this as a setting powder, it's actually very good for that. So next I have the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Blurring Skin Tint Perfector with Sunscreen. Just like the Fit Me, this is a much looser consistency than I like to use. It's on the light to lighter side of medium coverage. It applies nicely. It builds well in color and coverage. I told you I'm having a day. But it pulls, especially with a brush. Has a luminosity to it that I'm not sure I really like much. Doesn't feel heavy on my skin, but I was aware of it being there, and there was a tackiness to the touch even after powdering it. The powder did help improve the appearance, though there was still some pulling and luminosity. This is not a foundation or BB cream or whatever it is being, I think it's being considered, well, it's considered a skin perfector. It might be considered a BB cream. It's a tint, but it's not one that I would use. It's, yeah. It's not one I would use. I didn't particularly like it. I've actually given this sample to my daughter. I'm not quite sure how she feels about it, but it's definitely not for me with the pulling and the luminosity and the fact that I will actually be aware of it on my face the entire time that I have it on my face. I don't particularly like that either. So yeah, not one that I would recommend if you have problems with any of those things. So the next one I do not have a bottle for. I don't know what I did with it. I probably gave it to one of the kids and they didn't like it and threw it out. I'm not sure, but it also happens to be the one that I have the most notes on at this point. So, and that is the CoverGirl Natural Foundation. This was a big disappointment in a lot of ways, including the shade range. But at the time that I picked it up, I was just starting to be aware of inclusivity and the lack thereof, and wanting to support inclusive lines and inclusive brands. CoverGirl has since redeemed itself with its TruBlend and the TruBlend Matte Made and stuff like that. So, but with this one, I didn't realize that the shades that they actually had at Walmart were the only shades they had in the line. This one was also very loose in consistency, way looser than what I like. And its streak, if swiped rather than stippled with a brush, it felt harder to control. Much better with a sponge application or finishing a brush application with the sponge. So either if you start it with a brush, you get it on your face with a brush, finish it off with a sponge, or just use a sponge. It had an odd makeup kind of scent that I didn't like. It seemed to settle in my pores a bit. It had about a medium coverage, somewhat buildable. Did look like it'd be a texture bomb just from some of the issues I was having with it, but it dried down nicely, especially between my brows. This is where I get most of my texture, that and right underneath my eyes, but the biggest problems for some reason is right between my brows, and I didn't have a lot of problems in there. Appeared to resist powdering. It stayed somewhat tacky. The powder looked like it was sitting on top of it rather than melding and setting it. And it took a while to settle, and while I didn't actually feel it on my face or to the touch once everything finally settled, once it finally dried down, I was oddly aware of it the entire time I wore it. It was very strange. This was a strange foundation, I'll tell you. It had just strange issues to it. It's not one that I would repurchase. It's not one that I would try again. Yeah, it was not a very good foundation. All that said, it was practically a different foundation when my moisturizer was added. At the time that I had this, it was before I started putting the Vichy into my foundations. I was actually using the First Aid Beauty Coconut Smoothie Priming Moisturizer, and I was mixing that into my foundations because, again, like I said, I don't like my foundations just to sit on my face. And when I mixed that in, it was practically a different foundation. It powdered better, it felt better, I wasn't as aware of it, or I lost awareness of it. My biggest concern was an initial itch that I started to have. It did go away, but I was waiting for a worse reaction, really. I did try it a second time. It didn't like the smell, didn't like how it felt on my face, and I still got a bit of an itch. So it had a good color match and felt okay to the touch, but I think twice is enough for me, especially with the itch. A lot of times with allergic reactions, you can use something, once or twice and be okay, and then somewhere down the line, you're not okay. So twice was enough with that foundation. I did get it to work. It's not something I would repurchase. It's honestly not something I would recommend. You would have to work on it to get it to actually work for you, I think. It could have been my skin at the time. My skin, this was probably pretty close to 6 months ago, and my skin has been improving dramatically since then. So it could have been something with my skin. So somebody with a different skin might do better, but for me, it's a no. My next foundation, you could probably already tell. Yeah. I had been wanting to try this particular foundation for several months before I finally picked it up to try it. And considering the cost, I think it's a $13 foundation, something like that. I wasn't very happy with the results. That is the Milani Conceal and Perfect 2-in-1 foundation. This is a very thick foundation. This is a very thick foundation. It's very thick. It's even thicker than, well, it's probably on par with the Tarte that we have in the title of these. But it doesn't blend out the same way as the Tarte. It was very stiff to blend out. I could feel it on my face for quite a bit. It stayed tacky for a long time, even after powdered, and I could feel it to the touch for almost the entire time that I wore it. The finish is nice, but it did emphasize my texture around my eyes and between my brows, and in places I'd never had texture emphasized before. Down the bridge of my nose. I've never had that done on my chin. I'd noticed that it was showing up on my chin. Most of my foundations don't do that, and a foundation that I'm going to like and continue to wear don't do that. The coverage is medium but buildable, but despite the nice finish, it does look a bit foundation-y. You can kind of see it. It hasn't dried down, obviously, but you can see how it's kind of, I don't know. There's just something, some foundations, you put them on and you can tell you're wearing a foundation, even if they perfectly match you. It's just bizarre. It was still tacky hours later. I really wasn't happy with it. Mixing it in with my Vichy didn't seem to do much. It was still stiff to blend out, still felt heavy on my face, still emphasized my texture, still tacky even after powdered. It was a little less foundation-y. I am having a day today. And the finish was still nice, but I'm not wearing this again. I wore it twice. I did it the one without the Vichy and then one time with. It was uncomfortable. I was aware of it the whole time. And I actually put down on my notes, yuck. So this I don't even remember at this point. This must have just been very heavy feeling on my face. So, nice finish. That's about it. I'm really disappointed in having spent the money on this and just it being, yeah, being what it is. And honestly, it is not the worst one in the bunch. It's just the one I'm complaining about the most to this point. I really, really was unhappy at spending that kind of money and getting what I got. So when I spend, you know, anywhere from $10 to $30 on a foundation, I try to make it work. I don't like returning used products if I can help it, particularly stuff that's liquid that, you know, I don't even think I can give this to, well, I might be able to. Oh, nope, it has a thing. If I can't give it to Project Beauty Share and I can't return it, I really, really do try to find a way to make them work, and this one just wouldn't work. And when you spend anywhere from $10 to $30 on a foundation, depending on which foundation it is, some of them are $50, you need to find a way to make them work, to make that money worth it, and this just wasn't it. So my next foundation I actually got in samples from Sephora. This is the Sephora Collection 10-Hour Foundation. I was really surprised by this and how much I ended up liking it. It has a nice consistency. It is not too thick. It's not too thin. These are little bubble packets. So I had to mix 2 shades in the bubble packets to get them to a color that was close to my skin tone, which is fine because I'm just trying it out. The consistency is really nice. It's on the thicker side. If I can get this thing to open up enough, I can show you. It is not very loose at all. So this is this is the darkest shade in the bubble. It has a little bit of a drip, but not a lot of a drip. It's it's not too thin, it's not too thick, not too watery. It applies nicely. It oxidizes, but not a lot. As you can see, it blends out really well. Coverage is light, on the lighter side of full, but can be built up. I do initially feel it on my face, and it takes time to dry down, and I feel it most of that time, and of course it's tacky. During the dry down time, if I'm feeling the foundation on my face, I don't have a problem with it. It's when it's finally completely dry that I have a problem when feeling it on my face. But once it dries down, it's pretty much unnoticeable. And it's a really nice finish. It doesn't emphasize my texture at all. It doesn't look dry anywhere. It's just really nice. Now, I do not know if this will last 10 hours. I don't wear foundation for 10 hours. The longest I think I've worn foundation in any of these is 5 to 6 hours because I don't go anywhere. I'm at home with my son. My husband and I don't go out a whole lot, and so yeah, and when I do go out, it's usually earlier in the day when we're doing doctor appointments and errands and stuff like that, and I don't generally get up early enough to put on makeup for those things. So I don't wear them for, you know, 6 to 8 to 10 hours. I just don't. But after 4 hours, it was still a very nice finish, still looked very nice. It wasn't pilling up. It wasn't doing anything like that. Although I did have a bit of a shine on my nose, though not much. It mixed nicely with my Vichy and still had the nice finish. I really like this one. And in fact, I like this one so much, I ordered some. So I actually have one that I hope is actually in my shade on its way from Sephora. If it's not, I will take it to my local Sephora and try to find a more correct shade. My problem right now is that I essentially have, well, I will have 2 of their skin foundation match things, their foundation ID, whatever they call it. I can't remember what it is now. It's been so long. The one that they have on record right now is my summer, which is, and it's not even my darkest summer at this point, I don't think. It might be, but I don't think it is. But it's my summer shade, my summer skin tone, when I am much darker because I've been out walking and I'm tanned and all that other stuff. By the time we get to after Christmas, all of that is gone. This is my base, basically my base skin tone. So the color they have right now in their thing is going to be way too dark. I do know I tend towards the beige side. I do know that I have a neutral to slightly warm undertone. So I use that to help me pick out a color, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Like I said, if the skin tone doesn't quite match, I will just go in and exchange it for one that does. So the last one I have for today is the LA Girl Pro.Matte HD High Definition Long Wear Matte Foundation. I won this in a giveaway from Too Much Mouth over the Christmas holidays. This color, this is a beige, I believe. Yeah, this is plain beige. This one is a very, it should say light beige. This, for a beige, it is really light. But I found it works really well with the matte and poreless powder. The matte and poreless powder brings it down, so it's almost a match for me. Not quite, but almost. I like the consistency. It is not too runny. This is a full coverage foundation, at least on my skin. But it looks heavy. It emphasizes texture. Though patting it in with a damp sponge does help a little. Didn't feel it on my skin, but it looked like I was wearing foundation. This foundation actually looks very foundation-y on your skin, and powder makes that appearance worse. It does dry down fast. It does work with my Vichy, but it still looks foundation-y that way and still shows off my texture. A sponge helps, but I wouldn't build it up too much because it would quickly look cakey. The biggest problem with this, despite what everything sounds like very positive, other than looking foundation and the texture stuff, putting this on, whether by itself or with my moisturizer mixed in, I felt like I was literally applying paint to my face. It's like you're painting it on. And I know in a way we kind of sort of are painting on, so to speak, our foundations. But this one just was, it was really like, yeah, I was like I was trying to put down paint on my face. And as a result of that, I really, really don't like it. I actually had this in my Shop My Stash for my February uses. I have used it at least a half a dozen times. I don't think it's getting any better. I am taking it out of my February makeup to use, and I don't even know what I'm going to do with it. I can't. I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. So, I don't recommend it unless you're looking for something that's really full coverage. But I'm telling you, this stuff doesn't look natural on your skin. Even when you're wearing a full coverage foundation, I'm assuming you want some sort of natural, yeah, just some sort of natural kind of look to your skin, and this won't give it to you. I could see it being used for cosplay, for stage makeup maybe, anything where you kind of need that kind of heavy coverage. But for real life, for not doing those kinds of things, this is just going to look, well, at least to me, it looks obvious, and it's, yeah, it's just not a foundation I can recommend. It's just, it's paint. To me, it's paint. So I'm glad I got it for free. I'm glad I didn't pay for it, because I was actually thinking about trying this and purchasing some. And I'm just glad I didn't pay for it, because it, yeah, no. Anyway, so that's it for today, and I hope you like what you've seen, and if you have, that you will go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. If you do subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. I upload 4 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, but we occasionally have extra videos. We're going to have an extra video this month. If you are part of the notification squad, you probably want to check your bell, and then even you may want to check your subscription, because Yeah, people are getting kicked off subscriptions. People are finding their notification bells knocked off. I don't know what's up with YouTube lately, but it has losing its mind and can't seem to find it again. If you don't subscribe, well, that would be disappointing, but I also understand that I'm not everybody's cup of tea. If you don't subscribe, you're always welcome back, because everybody's welcome to join us over here. And if you do come back again, don't forget to bring your cup of tea. That chocolate is still nice and deep and has that slight bitterness to it, but it's now toned down just enough so that you can get a good dose of the orange. I love this tea. Love this tea. I hope you're all having a great day.